This is Ottawa and the Future of Sports, where we speak with the athletes shaping our city's future, one throw, one goal, one step at a time.
And today, we're talking power, precision, and podiums with shot putter Jessica Gyamfi.
At the 2025 U Sports Track and Field Championships in Windsor, Jessica made history, becoming the first woman in University of Ottawa history to medal in a field event, taking bronze in shot put with a throw of 13.32 meters.
She was later crowned Varsity Garnet Female Athlete of the Year, broke two school records, 13.85 meters in shot put, 15.98 in weight throw, and most recently grabbed gold in the Open Women's Shot Put at the Ontario U20 and Open Championships.
Oh, and did we mention she's also a third-year nursing student?
Let's get into it.
So, Jessica, what pulled you into throwing events? Was it love at first launch or a slow burn?
Love at first launch. Yeah, you know what? I guess it was love at first launch. It kind of happened twice in my life. So the first time was in grade 3, actually. My brother was going into the 5th grade, and so he was doing, that probably would have been his second year of elementary school track. And so obviously as the younger sister, I wanted to follow him. And I don't know why, but I was like, well, I feel like I could throw this ball pretty far. And I was in a 3-4 split. And so what happened was the teacher who was in charge was a little bit on the older side. And so I asked him, like, hey, if I'm in grade 3 in a 3-4 split class, am I allowed to do track and field? Because track and field starts in grade 4. And I guess he didn't understand my question. So he gave me the permission form anyways. And my mom signed it and everything. And so I just trained with the older kids for like basically the entire like month leading up until the first competition. And then someone in my brother's grade kind of snitched on me at the end there. And so my teacher was like, I'm sorry, like, because you're not the actual age, like, we can't take you to any competitions, but feel free to keep practicing with us. And so going to grade 4, then I could actually do my first competition. And I remember I threw 25 meters and that got me first place for the first time. And I was super excited to rub that in my brother's face. So that's how it kind of started me in elementary school. And so I tried different events like grade 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then it happened again in grade 9. One day we were doing like a team workout and my coach had like come up to me in the middle of it and was like, I need to talk to you after. And so me being the kid I was super scared because I thought I was in trouble. But it turns out she actually just wanted to tell me that she thought I had a lot of coordination for a 9th grader. And so she was like, I think you should try javelin. And I was like, wow, javelin looks really cool. I would love to throw a spear like 20 or 30 meters. And then halfway through that season, my javelin coach was like, well, if you're throwing javelin, you should throw shot put. Just give yourself multiple events to do. And then, yeah, so those are kind of the two stories of how I got into throwing. And then, I mean, we had 2 years of COVID. And then going into grade 12, I did javelin and shot again, as well as high jump. And then going into university, I did a lot of long jump as well when I was a kid. But going into university, I kind of did the same sequence. So throwing events, I didn't know that javelin wasn't in university because I didn't realize you can't throw a spear indoors. But shot put was still an option, so I chose shot put, and I did long jump. But ultimately, shot put just worked a lot better, not only on my knees, but for my program since it's always super busy. So yeah, that's kind of how that happened over the span of like 10 years.
Really, really fascinating. A few follow-up questions, if you don't mind. Sorry, it's just a little windy here, so I may have to repeat myself sometimes. Curious to know, tell us about how competitive were you and your older brother? And did that competition like push you even further? I guess what I'm asking is Is it an advantage having an older sibling and having a healthy competitive rivalry? And second to that, go back and to grade 9, having a coach highlight your give you positive feedback. How much did that play in your overall development at such an early age?
So to answer the sibling question, I don't know if I'd always call it the healthiest competition, but having
Is it just you two? Do you have other siblings as well?
I do have other siblings, but I grew up with only one of them.
Okay.
I think having a competitive older sibling will make the younger sibling competitive. It kind of also depends on the family, but my brother used to be like, why are you so slow? Even though he was like 5 inches taller than me and 2 years older than me. And so I was like, I will beat you eventually. That's not true, but like in my heart, I'd like to believe I could. And yeah, so like ultimately depends, but definitely in my case, like having an older sibling pushed me to be a lot more competitive as a kid. And then in terms of having a support, I think it was one of the critical points of me still being an athlete to this day, to be honest.
You mean about the grade 9 teacher?
About the grade 9 teacher, yeah. Because, like, I don't know if I would have stuck to sports after, like, grade 9. I kind of just was, like, a naturally athletic kid. So, like, I didn't have a second thought about it. But, like, really having someone in your... And I, like, my high school was really good about sports and giving support. So having that many people in my corner at the time, especially like 14 years old, you're figuring a lot of things out, like truly was the baseline of getting me to where I am today. So no, it definitely plays a very, very big role.
Very interesting. And I ask that because I know in some sports, at a certain age, generally speaking, kids, teens stop participating in sports. So it's interesting to hear that you got that support and you were in a positive, healthy environment, amongst athletes and coaches and so on. My next question for you, if you don't mind, for us general sports fans who may not be familiar with some of these sports, can you break down shot put for us? What's really happening in that circle before the throw? And you can use plain language for the general public to kind of understand the dynamics and so on.
Oh, it's okay. I'm an expert in plain language. It's definitely a game of physics. Maybe not as much as discus, but definitely because, well, there's 2 ways to throw. There's the glide, or there's 2 main ways to throw, I should say. There's the glide and there's rotational shot put. The glide, and the rotational shot both rely on a lot of momentum that you build up. Where the glide, you kind of start bent over and you're getting like a linear pushback into like taking all your energy and pushing it through the shot. The rotational spin kind of builds up speed throughout the spin, and that's how you get the force that you get at the end, or that you see at the end. I think in general, people say that the glide is great for power throwers because, like, I mean, if you got strong thighs and a strong push in your arms, then you could probably push it pretty far. Whereas rotational shot is advantageous if you're a little smaller or weaker, or if you're more on the speedier side, because then like you can really build up a lot of speed and velocity like in the middle of your throw. So yeah, I don't know if I put too much thought into it, but I would say it's definitely a game of building up speed and force to push a heavy metal ball as far as possible.
What do you think we might not... Sorry, the wind hates me. It's okay. I'll edit it as much as possible. But, obviously, the visual is stunning when you see people, in position and working the technique and just throwing with power and... Please. Sorry, this wind is killing me. I'll just wait in a sec here. For people who may want to get into these sports, just in terms of like watching and understanding these sports, what's one key takeaway that they should consider when watching these sports?
It's harder than it looks. That's number one. I think shot put and throwing events in general are a lot more of a progressive sport. Like, you really have to put in the time to see the progress. It's not like sprinting where it's like you can like naturally just be fast and like beat someone who's been running for years. Like, you can pick up the technique fast, but it takes years and even decades for most professional athletes to kind of perfect. So if you're okay with the slow burn, then throwing events might be up your alley. But yeah, it's definitely more of a progressive sport, I would say, and it needs a lot of time and care.
When you're in there, when you're about to throw and you're getting... Wow, it's as if each time I'm talking, the wind is blowing. It's insane. What are you thinking about when you're just about to throw, when you're getting in your position? Or can you lead us through your process before throwing, if you don't mind?
According to most of my coaches I've had in my life, apparently it's too many things at once. The key is you're supposed to kind of only pick, they say, one or two cues, and that's how you're supposed to start your throw. It kind of depends on what you're working on at the time. Sometimes, because I'm a rotational shot put thrower, I'm like, okay, when I spin out the back of the circle, I need to be slow, or I need to be long, or don't dip into the middle. Or if sometimes my foot gets stuck, it's a common issue. So sometimes it's like, okay, keep my right foot turning. Or get your left foot down. It's just like, it can be a combination of things, honestly, at any point in time. But those are usually like the main four, I would say, I've been thinking about for the past year or so. Hence the long burn. It really just takes over your life at some point.
How do you get into the zone? Because I've seen some photos, some stills of you throwing. And you seem, if I could describe it, you look very intense, very focused, and like powerful. Like how do you for real? How like, is there a certain and I'm speaking as someone who doesn't know anything about your sport. Who, you know, I look at other sports, but how do you get into that zone? Or actually, in terms of the way I described it, just weird. In terms of the way I described it, like, what are your thoughts on that? But how do you get into that zone?
Ooh, it kind of depends on the competition. I think a big part of competing is your mental game, and I think, I don't know if a lot of athletes realize that. At first, I used to be like too nervous, like to the point where I would be standing still and you could still see me like slightly shaking. And then, but that's like something that doesn't necessarily improve until you get more competition experience. I would say for meets I don't consider too serious, I get into the zone by not being serious up until I'm like in the circle ready to throw. For bigger competitions, I would say I'm kind of more running through the things I'd been working on, like up until that point. So to get into the zone, it's mostly just like concentrating and thinking about the past couple practices and trying to focus on what I want to do for that competition. But honestly, I don't even see myself as too intense. So maybe it's just maybe it's a natural thing, to be honest. It's just when you're in it, it just happens.
I use the word intense because it seems like you're more like there's a focus there's an intention to throw, you're in the moment, and this, the thing with photography, I find it captures a lot of emotion, and it's power. It's very cool to see. I was like, oh wow, look at that. But I think you have that same intensity if you're a chess player, or if you're, because there's a lot of concentration there.
For sure.
But it's interesting that you mentioned the mental game, the sports psychology side. Maybe we'll get into that in a bit later on. But I'm curious to know, you made history this year, right? When did it hit you that you were doing something special? And by history, if you don't mind, I'll put it in context. Obviously, you in March you won bronze in the women's shot put at the U Sports Track and Field Championships. You became the first woman in University of Ottawa history to earn a field event medal at this national meet. Podium throw was 13.32 meters. And then in April of that year at the Gigi's banquet, you got varsity Garnet. Is it Garnet or Garnet? Garnet, okay. And you were named for Varsity Garnet Female Athlete of the Year at the University of Ottawa. You were recognized for a record-breaking season, OUA Silver, and U Sports Bronze in shot put. And in July, just recently, you won gold in the Open Women's shot put at the Ontario Under 20 and Open Championships. So you've had quite a run, if I can put it that way. And I hope I'm not making you nervous or anything like that. But no. So what do you think about this year for you? How's it been? Congratulations, first and foremost. And how do you feel about all these great accomplishments?
Thank you. I'm gonna be super honest. I had no idea I was the first female field athlete to win a medal at our school until I saw the Instagram post. Our coach is very much, I love the guy, but he doesn't what's the best way to describe it? We don't know a lot of things about our school until pops up somewhere. We have a fax guy on somewhere in our club who kind of gets all the details for us, and so I was just really happy to get third that night. It was a bit of a stressful 2 weeks leading up to the competition with their dome collapsing and then finding random spots to practice. But yeah, no, it was a really, really good season, especially at the end there. But also being in nursing school at the time, I think it was very much just okay, we're taking this one at a time. OUAs went great. That's awesome. Got to U Sports. Was stressing a lot. But then it worked out. I was like, oh my goodness, this is great. And then in April at the Gigi's banquet, I knew I was nominated, but I know it's because we don't see all the other sports. I really just thought it was going to be up in the air. So it was a really pleasant surprise to find out that they had selected me. And then, yeah, even in Windsor at the Athletic Ontario Championships, to be honest, I wasn't even that happy with my throws, but that's more because I was just in a performance state of mind instead of a placing set of mind. So yeah, I mean it's been great, but I don't really get to notice all the progress until I'm done, I think is the big thing for me. But honestly, I don't have any real complaints. I'm very happy with the progress I've made, especially this past 2025 year.
What are people, friends, family, fellow athletes? What are they? What's some of the feedback they've relayed to you?
Oh, I love my teammates. My teammates are great. They're all very, very supportive. Especially my thrower and jumper teammates. Shout out to you guys. Yeah, it kind of just feels like having a lot of extra siblings. So it makes going to competitions fun. We had a really fun group when we went down to nationals, like during the school year. But they've all been very super supportive. My family as well, also very, very supportive. Some know more about track and field than others, so some of them are just really, really happy to see my progress, and others I think I have to kind of re-explain what's going on half the time. But yeah, I mean, it's everyone, I think, and that's what makes track and field like just a really like beautiful sport to be in. Like majority of the time, I would say like 99% is always just like very supportive, very like just a fun environment to be in, which is why it makes it a lot easier to come back season after season.
How important is that fun environment, do you think, for people involved in this sport?
Oh, to be honest, I think it makes or breaks it. Like you can be really, really good, but if you're in a toxic environment, like I've seen a lot of athletes kind of burn out from that. Or you could not be super great, but maybe like your track and field club is your social space. And then, I mean, regardless of what your goal is, like you're surrounded by people, you're surrounded by a common interest. Like it's just one of those things where it's nice to have another set of community around you for sure.
Absolutely. I know we don't have a lot of time, but I do have a few more questions. Is that cool? In terms of like time and energy management, how do you manage practice, school, and all that? Because you're also, as you mentioned, you're a nursing student. So what's harder, nursing exams or nailing a perfect throw under pressure?
Nursing exams, not a question.
Tell us about nursing school. How's that experience overall?
Well, it is definitely an experience. It's
You're going into your last year?
I am going into
Congrats.
Thank you. It is definitely not easy, I would say. There's a lot of aspects into nursing because it's not just caretaking, it's knowing the science, knowing the communication. They say nursing is not only a science, it's an art. So also knowing the art of nursing, I guess. And there's a lot of aspects to it in terms of how you have to pass every year. Because like you have your theory portion, which is more like the science, anatomical, the medicine, surgical side, the mental health side. And then you have your specializations, of course, like maternity and pediatrics or geriatrics. And then you have your physical side where you're actually learning how to give the care. So that's what you have labs for. And then you have physical examinations that you have to pass, or else you can't keep going during the school year. And then, yeah, but then you still have to complete both tandem every year up until you graduate. So it's definitely, I would say, a lot at all times. At some point during the school year, if you see me quiet at practice, that means it's hitting the hard part of the nursing year. But yeah, I mean, it's I'm just excited to almost be done, for sure.
So you're going into fourth year, 3 years into it. What have you learned about yourself through the nursing school experience, and in relation to your sport? And what role has your sport played along? Has it boosted your spirits when you felt overwhelmed, or not overwhelmed, but because it sounds from what you described it, I'll be honest with you, I had no clue that every year it was sort of like there was this, the labs and all that. And you're right, nursing is extremely challenging because you're dealing with the science, you're dealing with patients, you're dealing with, there's a shortage of nurses. So you all are in big demand, obviously, and nurses, nursing education, I'm sure, has evolved over the years. And yeah, so what have you learned about yourself through the program, and in relation to your sport? How has your sport played in maybe enhancing your overall schooling experience, or has it made it harder? Because there's that whole work-life balance sort of dynamic there.
Well, for one, I would say having track and nursing has brought a sort of balance to my life, I think. If I spent too much in one side or the other, it's probably definitely would have been grounds for burnout for sure. What I've learned about myself is that I think I definitely have a better strength in people skills and patient teaching, because it's almost similar to coaching compared to just straight out skills, which is definitely a little more fine tuning. And I can see the same thing when I throw, I need not a lot of supervision, but I need feedback and repetitive practice to get things right, compared to just going out and doing my thing, which I think a lot of other nurses can do. I also learned that both take a lot of patience. So having patience in one has increased my patience in the other, which has definitely helped in terms of track. And also that going back to it's not a short-term thing. You will see yourself become a better nurse. You will see yourself become a better athlete, and you give it time and attention. So yeah, I would say those are probably the main things for sure. And so I'm just slowly chipping away at both, I would say, and hopefully I'm better for it overall in the future.
Oh, it's awesome, and you have one more year left. I think that's awesome, and it's a great profession. I know, as I mentioned, obviously, we need nurses. They play an integral part in the healthcare system. Curious to know, what you mentioned there in terms of that feedback on the coaching side. Speak to us about the coaches you've had over the years, if you want to mention any in particular. How have they, obviously you mentioned one of the coaches in grade 9, which is very interesting what you said there, but have there been a lot of have you had a lot of coaches? What's the best advice they've ever provided, if given you, in terms of even on the skills, the development side? And how important is that dynamic in your sport, respectively, having that great communication with your coach? Because you sound, from what you've just said there, it sounds like you need that continuous feedback and course correction or what have you. Speak to us about that.
Well, I'd say I've had 4 main coaches in my life up until this point. There are a few others, but the 4 most impactful, I would say, were my 2 coaches in high school. So Lisa Greaves, who actually coaches with London Western, the university, and then Denise Kusner-Jajal. She was a triple jumper, but she was one of the most supportive coaches I had going through high school for sure. And she was one of the reasons to keep me in track even when COVID happened, because she used to drive me to and from with my mom's permission, of course, but drive me to practice, and she was still my teacher, so I saw her all the time, which was a great supportive person to have in my corner.
What subject did she teach?
So I actually had her for both phys ed and kinesiology.
Good.
Yeah, so she was definitely more exercise science based. And then in university, also in high school, I had Sylvia Contra. She's the throws coach at Western University as well, and the London Western track and field club. And then my coach right now, of course, Tim Nadeau. Like I said, love the guy. He's definitely a different personality than I've had compared to my other three coaches, and maybe one of them just because he's like my first main like male coach. But yeah, no, I mean, having all of them have been like very pivotal for different stages of my life, I would say, and they've all taught me like different important things that I keep in mind to this day.
May I ask you about Coach Tim? What's he like as a coach?
He's a funny guy. He is, what's the best way to describe Tim? Tim reminds me that sometimes I just need to let things go and just go with it, and you're fine and you've done everything, which is good to have because, like I said, I've been known to overthink a lot. So I think that's the main thing for me, having him for sure. But also just like you can still talk to him. Like he's just a good guy overall, I would say.
I could ask so many more questions, but we're running out of time. You know, it's interesting when you mentioned the overthinking thing, and I could ask some follow-up questions on that, but I won't because I'm cutting into our time. Two last questions, if you don't mind. What's been the most surprising lesson you've learned from competing at a high level?
I don't know when I started way back in the day. It's more just like it's been very interesting finding out how much I'm actually capable of, because back in the day, like I didn't grow up doing club sports. Like anything I did, it was like I would do the sports in school and then that was it. I was just at home all the time. I didn't really consider myself like an athlete. I was just an athletic kid. So now like seeing myself, I mean, I don't know if I say elite yet, but being considered in such a position, like it's been very cool finding out how much I'm capable of and am continuing to train and do.
How do you see your future? More medals, more records, or blending it all with your nursing career? What are your hopes and ambitions, if you don't mind me asking?
More medals would be nice, for sure. I think it's always fun doing well in a competition. I don't remember where I heard it from, but somewhere in high school, something or someone had told me if you're gonna do things in life, you should have two dreams: a realistic dream, a practical dream, and your dream. And so, I mean, I've loved track and field for years, decades. A decade, I guess I'm not that old yet, but like I would love to see how far I can get in the sport. I think that would be the dream. But maybe it was my mother, now that I think about it, at least the practical side. Having the practical dream, something that can bring me joy but also keep me alive in this economy, would probably be, if I can, still going into physiotherapy, because I have always had a side dream of being able to help rehabilitate others. I've always found it very fascinating for specific reasons that have happened, but due to time I can't elaborate.
Rehab the general population or particularly athletes, or both?
Both I wouldn't mind. I think in my head there's a little bit more of a focus towards pediatrics since kids are so resilient.
Okay.
Which goes into the story I had, but
now we gotta hear. Only if you want to. Sorry, I know I'm cutting into your training.
No, it's okay. I don't know if I can, because
Fair enough.
it's not a story about me, it's about someone else. So I probably would have had to ask them beforehand.
Understood.
Yeah. But yeah, rehabilitation wise, I think would be the realistic dream for sure. I think there's a lot of joy that comes into seeing people get back to their old selves, or at least close to their old selves. But yeah, I mean, no, track was probably one of my first loves. So to see a full career, I think would also be just as rewarding if possible. And yeah.
Well, you know what? Thank you very much for your time. I know we've gone over a little bit, but I've really enjoyed this. So thank you very much. And I'm hoping to capture just a few moments or so, a few minutes of you throwing. Is that cool?
Yeah, sure. I do have to warm up though first.
Big thanks to Jessica Gyamfi for joining us for this conversation.
This has been Ottawa and the Future of Sports.
To learn more about track and field in Ottawa, follow the Ottawa Lions Track and Field Club on all social media platforms or visit their website at ottawalions.com.